Goofy almost had a completely different speaking voice in a Goofy movie. A Goofy movie turns 30 years old this week, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind a Goofy movie starts in 1932 when Walt Disney first introduced the character of Goofy, or rather Dippy Dog, his original name, in the 7-minute short Mickey's Review. Dippy Dog officially became Goofy in the Whoopie Party later that year. Throughout the 1930s, Disney often featured Goofy in a trio alongside Mickey and Donald Duck. And then in 1939, he got his own series of shorts, 2 of which were nominated for Oscars. In the late 40s, Disney started portraying Goofy as a suburban everyman. In the 1950s, he got a human wife and a half-human, half-Goofy son named Goofy Jr., and those shorts would go on to have a big impact on Goofy's future. Fast forward about 50 years, and Disney Television Animation has become an important arm of the company, and part of its mission is to mine and revive old studio properties. As animator Michael Peraza Jr. wrote on his blog in 2010, Goof Troop had been in development for quite a while before I came into the mix. He explained that an unnamed Disney creative executive was tasked with creating a Goofy animated series, and at first this executive thought Goofy should be a scoutmaster for some Boy Scouts, which is where the name Goof Troop originally came from. The executive brought Peraza onto the project to help create a pitch to the higher-ups, and quote, "As I started working on the pitch concepts, I quickly realized there was no clear direction for the show as yet. One moment Goofy was the captain of the fire department, the next a detective out of the Maltese Falcon mode, or a swashbuckling hero fighting the Flying Dutchman. At one point, the creative executive wanted to put Goofy in Toontown from Roger Rabbit. Ultimately, Peraza said he was summoned to a meeting with Gary Crisell, then president of Walt Disney Television Animation. Crisell understood that this unnamed executive lacked a focused idea, so he asked Peraza, "What do you want to do?" Peraza then suggested a family comedy harkening back to the 1950s shorts. He said, "Goofy's son is an average kid dealing with many of the usual issues they face: peer pressure, young love, grades, school bullies, and so on. On top of all that, he has the zaniest, wackiest, goofiest dad to live down. No matter how insane the situations get, though, they will always love each other. They're a family." Crisell loved it and attached prolific animation producer Robert Taylor. Together, Taylor and Peraza officially created Goof Troop, with the troupe now referring to Goofy's family. The show premiered in 1992 and aired 78 episodes total across the Disney Channel and ABC. Bill Farmer voiced Goofy, Dana Hill played his 11-year-old son Max, and Jim Cummings was Pete. Cummings actually won an Annie Award for his performance. After the show's success, Disney Television Animation wanted to keep it going with a TV special, but during the development process, the special was elevated to theatrical film status. Kevin Lima, who had previously served as a character designer and story contributor on The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, was hired to direct the Goofy movie, making this his feature film directorial debut. He'd later direct Tarzan and Enchanted. Jim Magon was then hired to write the screenplay, while Chris Matheson and Brian Pimentel are also credited for their contributions. The filmmakers made the choice to age up Max for the movie, making him a high schooler. They hired Jason Marsden to voice Max. You might know Marsden from Hocus Pocus, Boy Meets World, or Step by Step. He's not related to James Marsden, but they are friends. Aaron Lohr then did the singing for Max. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the studio chief at Disney at the time, initially wanted Steve Martin to voice Goofy in the movie, but they instead kept Bill Farmer in the role. But then at first, Katzenberg asked Farmer to give Goofy a regular speaking voice for the movie, as opposed to Goofy's classic cartoonish cadence. Farmer was really confused by this idea because he thought audiences would want to hear the Goofy voice they were familiar with. But he took the note, and for a week he recorded Goofy's lines with a normal speaking voice, until Disney CEO Michael Eisner and Walt Disney's nephew turned executive Roy E. Disney intervened and told Farmer to use Goofy's signature cartoon voice. Jim Cummings returned to voice Pete as well, while Kelly Martin and Wallace Shawn also joined the cast. Pauly Shore makes an uncredited appearance as Max's friend Bobby. He asked to be uncredited because he didn't want Disney to sell the movie on his name, while singer Tevin Campbell served as the pop star Powerline. Powerline was inspired by real-life musicians Michael Jackson, Prince, and Bobby Brown. Composers Patrick DeRemer and Roy Freeland wrote the original songs Stand Out and Eye to Eye. The filmmakers hired real dancers to choreograph and perform the Eye to Eye sequence, which they then shot on video and used as a reference point for the animation. Tevin Campbell recorded the songs at Prince's studio in Paisley Park in just a few takes. Rosie Gaines, a member of Prince's band, has a solo in Eye to Eye, and the backup singers were the gospel group The Waters. Director Kevin Lima makes a voice cameo in the movie as a walk-around character at Lester's Possum Park. Julie Brown and Joey Lawrence played popular students Lisa and Chad. Kevin Lima said it was his intention to do a John Hughes movie, but in animation. He told the Austin Chronicle, "Instead of just keeping Goofy one-dimensional as he's been in the past, we wanted to give an emotional side that would add to the emotional arc of the story. We wanted the audience to see his feelings instead of just his antics." And Jim Magan said the father-son road trip was inspired by Jeffrey Katzenberg, who had gone on a real road trip with his then estranged daughter, and it helped mend their relationship. Pre-production began in mid-1993, but a Goofy movie had some big competition inside Disney at the time. The Lion King and Pocahontas were both in the works and were the clear priorities. And so Goofy was considered less essential and given a way smaller budget, just $18 million compared to the Lion King's $45 million budget and Pocahontas' $55 million budget. Basically, not many people inside Disney cared about a Goofy movie. And even its production had to be slapped together across different departments. The movie was jointly produced by Walt Disney Feature Animation, Walt Disney Television Animation, and Disney Movie Tunes, and then they had to outsource the animation work to Walt Disney Animation France, as well as Disney Animation Studios in Spain and Canada. The movie includes a lot of Disney and pop culture references. Mickey Mouse can be seen in the crowd at the concert. This white glove is referencing Michael Jackson. The Aladdin soundtrack, plus dolls of Simba and Bambi, can be spotted in the film. Max's transformation into his dad in the opening nightmare sequence was inspired by an American Werewolf in London. The nuns were inspired by Sister Act. The movie was originally supposed to come out Thanksgiving 1994, but then had to be delayed because one of the monitors they were using to capture the movie's animation had a single dead pixel, which meant that they had to recapture 75% of the movie again with a non-defective monitor. Moving the date also saved the film from having to compete with The Swan Princess and The Page Master. And then Jeffrey Katzenberg was fired from Disney in October 1994. A Goofy movie was one of Katzenberg's pet projects, and so the studio lost even more interest in the film after he was gone. According to Vanity Fair, Disney saw its release as more of a contractual obligation, though it did partner with Burger King on some tie-in promotion. A Goofy movie opened on 2,159 screens on April 7th, 1995, making just $6.1 million at the box office opening weekend, falling to number 2 behind Bad Boys. It would go on to gross $37.6 million total worldwide, which is roughly twice its budget, meaning it probably just broke even in theaters. Critics were pretty mixed on A Goofy Movie. Today, 64% of the 55 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive. The movie was nominated for 5 Annie Awards, but it didn't win any. And though it was cast aside by Disney and did just okay at the box office, A Goofy Movie grew into a cult classic, especially among the Black community. This has been attributed to its success on home video and cable, plus its catchy music and relatable emotional story. It spawned a direct-to-video sequel in 2000 called An Extremely Goofy Movie, in which Goofy and Max become college classmates and participate in the X Games. But the original's legacy is now everywhere. Disney had to turn people away from its 20th anniversary panel at D23 in 2015. The movie's songs and characters have appeared in the company's theme parks, on American Idol, and on Dancing with the Stars. Alana Haim has cited it as her favorite movie of all time. Turning Red director Domi Shi cited A Goofy Movie as a major inspiration. Donald Glover turned an entire episode of Atlanta into a mockumentary about A Goofy Movie and its blackness. And now you can watch a real making-of documentary about it called Not Just a Goof on Disney+. In that doc, director Kevin Lima talks about how the movie is especially popular in the Black community, explaining that he was quite shocked when he discovered that the African-American community had embraced the movie. But he says, looking back on it, it lives in its DNA. But Bill Farmer summed up the movie's journey, telling Slashfilm, "Over the years, many fans have come up to me, probably more than any other project I've ever worked on, and I've done close to 4,000 projects for Disney. And A Goofy Movie stands out among all of them with the fans. They always come up and say, I couldn't talk to my dad, but we saw this movie and it became our movie."